metric, and we get questions about it, but it's never been a credibility issue. It's always been, oh, help us understand better how that's calculated, and then there's some tweaking of the numbers and so forth. But, you know, that credibility issue that Beiser was talking about when he criticized measuring the value of testing, that was a while ago, and that is something that can be overcome. So I wouldn't not do it based on that. Okay, a couple more questions popping up. Here we go. Comment from my pal John Steinmetz. John says, I live in Kansas, so let me assure you that if you land here later today, it's not so bad. I got to believe it'd be a lot less windy than it is here, and probably a lot less wet. So certainly nothing against Kansas, John, and right now I think I'd probably be less likely to get blown away and land on top of one of the Wicked Witches than if I were in Kansas than being here. This is quite a storm. It reminds me of the time I was in Taipei, and I arrived there right before Typhoon Herb did. It's pretty wet and windy there too. I got a question here from Mark Bester. Do you think that testing should be elevated to a strategic level based on the maturity of the SDLC within a company? Oh, yes, indeed. Wouldn't that be nice? Testing as a strategic concept. And why not? I mean, really, why not? You know, because this is what we need to do. You start talking about connecting to business value and demonstrating your business value. You now have changed the conversation to one that is actually of a strategic level, right? Because we're talking about managing the costs associated with quality, which certainly should be something that manage. You know, we manage costs, right? I mean, it's a strategic thing to minimize costs. You know, it's as I've said before, some of you probably heard me say it, and most companies manage their holiday parties more quantitatively than they manage the quality of their software. It's amazing, but you know, and that's a startling statement, but I stand by it because most of the time when I go in and do assessments for clients and we start looking at things like cost of quality, it's never been done before. No one has ever looked at it before. You ask questions like, what does it cost you to find and fix a bug prior to release versus after release? No one knows the answers to those questions. And those are strategic questions because if you want to quantitatively manage quality, you've got to be able to address those questions. And, you know, as test professionals, when we can start communicating on a level like that, we start communicating with people in a strategic fashion, guess what? We get taken seriously. We get to have strategic conversations. You know, as long as we're perceived as geeky bug hunters, and that's all we're doing is just running around finding a bunch of bugs and getting all geeked out about the bugs and the way that we find them and so forth, it will be perceived by senior managers and executives as purely tactical people playing a very limited role. But when we start to transform that into helping quantitatively manage the quality of the systems that are being produced and the costs associated with it, that becomes a whole different conversation. And notice that our day-to-day work doesn't change. The day-to-day work stays exactly the same. It's just that the thing that changes is the conversation that we're having about the work. And that's what I'm trying to suggest with this webinar, that you know, let's change the conversation that we have about the work to include this question of the strategic value of testing and managing quality. Mark's got a follow-up here. Do you think we should become less flexible in the methodologies we use, become dynamic in the approaches to testing in general? No, I would actually say we need to be more. We need more flexibility, if anything. I mean, we need to understand the different testing strategies, but I think as testing profession, we've run a real risk of becoming really sclerotic on approaches. You know, people running around flogging this concept of the 4 schools of software testing and so forth, as if testing strategies were a religion and you had to pick one and stick with it. And that's just really fundamentally misguided. I mean, you know, the testing strategies are just that. They're strategies, and they need to be selected based on fitness for purpose. You know, I mean, there's a time and a place for heavily reactive approaches using a lot of exploratory testing or Whitaker's attack techniques, combinations thereof, and there's a time and a place for requirements-based testing, and there's a time and a place for risk-based testing and for model-based testing and for all of these other kinds of testing techniques. And people need to get better about picking and choosing strategies that suit the conditions. You know, as hackneyed as this is, and coming from a consultant, one of the things that can be useful in thinking about this is read The Art of War, because in The Art of War, there is a discussion about different strategies for battles and waging war, and how to select one or another in different circumstances. And you know, you realize that if you start to think about that, it's like, okay, I've got resources and I'm going to attack a testing problem basically, and I've got a number of strategies at my disposal to do that. Which ones are most fit for purpose? And again, that's just, you know, getting to strategic thinking. So, you know, get that mindset. You know, get that be flexible. Attack the problem a lot of different ways. Understand your objectives. Understand how the strategies serve the objectives. And I think we have a long way to go there. Deborah asks, will this webinar be presented again for future presentation? I have several individuals in mind who could benefit from it. Well, there will be, God willing, and telephone power lines don't blow down. There will be another presentation of this at 8:30 p.m. Central Time tonight. If you want to let people know that, you can still sign up via the homepage, the RBCS website, rbcs-us.com. So, you know, you can do that. Now, that might be a little too fast, but you could send that link out to people. Now, this very session is being recorded, and again, you know, assuming that we don't have a massive power failure here sometime in the next few minutes, we'll have a recorded version of this webinar, and it will be posted on the digital library of the RBCS website. So you go to the resources digital library page, and recorded webinars are there. This webinar and all previous webinars are also posted there. So the webinar should be available sometime in the next couple days out there, and you can forward that link. Farah asks a question here of how do we get on your distribution list to receive future training webinars? Real easy. You go to the RBCS webpage again, rbcs-us.com, and I believe it's down the lower right-hand side of the webpage. There is a link that you can click on to sign up for the newsletter, and just sign up for the newsletter, and then you'll get invitations to the webinars as well as the monthly, bi-monthly, every other month newsletter, and the bi-monthly offers letter. So that's easy enough. And just, you know, if you think there are other people who can benefit, again, forward on the link and say, hey, sign up for this webinar. If you want to get an example of what the bi-monthly newsletter looks like, there are newsletters posted out there. I forget exactly where you can find them, on the articles page or the basic library.